Hi, I'm Chaplain William Johnson from the Spiritual Care Department here at Christian Hospital, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share once more with our Monday morning meditation. It is always a joy every week to be able to share these messages with you, messages of inspiration and hopefully of encouragement as you're going through the course of the week and perhaps starting your week beginning on an up note. And so thank you so much for allowing us to share with you during this time for these Monday morning meditations. I do want to share with you what I believe is a helpful resource. As often as you do, we are trying to prepare ourselves so that you can upload these messages at any time, so that you can be able to click on them and any moment that you have at your convenience, that you can take a moment to be encouraged and to hear these messages. Hopefully they will provide that kind of support for you as you're going through your workday. We want to thank you so much for giving us this privilege to share with you, to our administration throughout the hospital and throughout the BJC system, and as well as those of you who are staff members who are really enjoying these messages. Thank you for your feedback, and we invite more for our patients and their families. That's why we're trying to get it uploaded so that you can access this as well. Thank you all so much for all that you do. We hope that this morning's meditation will inspire you and help you as well. Today's Monday morning meditation is entitled, It's Not What It Looks Like. It's not what it looks like. People of faith, of all faiths, have from time to time been accused of ignoring the brutal facts of reality. That somehow, when we are faced with reality, we somehow recoil and go into these flowery places of faith and tradition and belief and never deal with the facts on the ground, that people are suffering and people are going through the worst of times at moments. And it feels and seems somewhat Pollyanna to be able to offer words of encouragement or cast a silver lining even when the worst of the worst has happened to people. I read a book some time ago that was entitled When Your Rope Breaks, and it plays on the theme that when you're at the end of your rope, someone once said you should tie a knot. But the overarching question comes, then what happens when you've tied a knot and you're holding on for dear life and that rope breaks? What do you do then in those moments? And people of faith have been kind of made fun of or acknowledged as not really dealing with reality when we often pitch these ideas that our faith traditions somehow supersede or get us around the brutal corners of life. And sometimes people wonder whether or not we're in tune or we're on the same page. Well, today I want you to know that we are. But I do want to offer these words of encouragement still to say to you, it's not what it looks like. There are often moments in our lives and moments as we gather that we discover that life is really difficult and it is really hard. And we wonder if there are words of inspiration or moments that can encourage us to make it through those things in which we face. And so I want you to know that there are moments in which when all the times and all the moments and all the people who have shared with us to encourage us, there is something that God would want us to know, that what we're facing and what we're seeing, even if it seems traumatic and difficult, and yes, even downright hard, that there are words and moments in which we can hold on to make it through. So today, sharing that is not what it looks like is a reminder to us that even though we are facing difficulties, we don't have to necessarily let those difficulties overwhelm us. The fourth chapter of Paul's letter to the church at Corinth offers us these words, and I kind of dash to the 18th verse because it's one of my favorites. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take a moment to read it from the New Living Translation. And it says this. I'll begin actually at the 16th verse of the fourth chapter, and I'll read down to the 18th, if you don't mind. That is why we never give up, the writer says. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last long, very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on the things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. That's awfully big talk from Paul, who's the writer of this letter to Corinth. But the context for which this group of people in Corinth were living under, they found themselves under immense oppression. They were ridiculed on every side. Some of them actually killed. Many of them found themselves on the run, and life was really hard. And in those moments, they wondered whether or not God had abandoned them to their fate. Many of us feel that way. Many of us have struggled through a pandemic, which we've mentioned and talked about almost ad nauseum, but we are still going through it. It has not let up. And also, while we're doing that, we're handling all of the heavy weights of life, paying bills, looking after family, raising kids, looking after parents who are now aging, making sure that we can get in line for a vaccine, trying to discover how to manage the challenges of everyday life. And here, while we're in the middle of it and it doesn't look like it will let up, we are reminded by Paul in his letter as he's writing to this church or these group of people in Corinth, that while you're there, don't ever give up. Don't ever let your guard down, because what you see is only temporary, and that which you don't see is eternal. That's a mighty tall order, Paul. But the reminder to us is that while we're seeing what we see, it does not take away from the fact that we are suffering, or we're in pain, or we're in the hospital, or we've lost a loved one, or our marriages are ending, or our children are going hog wild, or the society is at this place where it seems to be ripping at the seams. All of those things are real, but while they are real, they are not everything. It might be something, but it is not everything. In other words, we have the tendency to make the crisis that we're in appear to be larger than life and everything to us, because it snatches all the air out of the room. It takes us by storm. It overwhelms us into a place where we are filled with anxiety, wondering whether or not we will make it through. But it is only one thing. It is not everything. Paul reminds those believers in Corinth, and so we are reminded and encouraged today that it's not what it looks like, because it is not everything. It's only something. And in order to navigate through this place when we're dealing with crisis and heavy loads to carry, we have to be reminded that what we see and what we're experiencing and what we deal with on a daily basis, that we have to learn how to look deeply, look in a way that is different than the ways we've looked before. In other words, we have to learn how to first look beneath what it is that we see. Look beneath it. In other words, everything has roots. You can't always just look at what's on top of the ground. You have to look underneath it and discover whether or not the roots are what they are. You know, there's some things that if you discover what the root of it is, it helps you to understand it a little better. There are differences and discussions that people have. There's racial disharmony in the nation. There's financial challenges that have set people apart, economic conditions that have put people in different places. There are those who are at war, a nation divided, all of those things. But underneath it, you see what's really at core. It's really not hate, it's fear. And when you can get your hands on that, if you can get your hands on what's happening around you, it helps us understand it better and helps us to deal with it a little better. Look beneath it. Also, you have to be able to kind of not only look beneath it, but really find yourself in the place of looking behind it. You know, when I was a kid, we used to, kind of do this thing. We would hide, in different places. I don't know if you did that as a kid, but I did. We would hide and imagine when the lights were off and we would look behind closed doors and closets and things, we would imagine the worst of the worst. However, once we turned the lights on and looked behind the curtain, and we would discover there's nothing really there. Sometimes you have to look behind what it looks like, not just beneath it, but also behind it. And you'll discover that there's nothing to fear and nothing to be worried about, because the one who controls your life, your creator, is there watching what's on one side of the curtain and on the other. And so somehow you're protected even in those moments. Finally, I'll stop here, but I think it's really important to hold on to. Not only should we look beneath it and behind it, but we also are called upon to look beyond it. It's not what it looks like, because you have to be able to see beyond the trouble. When I was growing up, I remember there was, I had to face some bullies in life. And on my way to school, these bullies would always stand on the corner of my block. And I was concerned. And so I tried all the time to try to avoid those bullies. Yes, I did. I tried to avoid them. And there's some things you really just can't avoid. And when they realized I was trying to avoid them, they would meet me on the corners where I would go. I'd try to do a shortcut, walk through an alley around the backside, and there they would be. But one day I looked up and there were the bullies that were standing in front of me, and there's no way that I could get around them. But to my surprise, behind the bullies was my big brother on the other side of them. And so that when they looked at me and thought I would be afraid, somehow I was no longer afraid, because I was able to see beyond them. So it is. I want you to be encouraged that there is something, the one who created you, the God that you serve, or how you worship, or whatever it is that you found truth in. I call that God. I've discovered that God is always on the other side of the trouble. And all I have to do is look beyond that. I would tell my children when they were growing up, this may be a part of my faith tradition, so please don't shoot me because of it. But I've learned to stop looking at people who have posed themselves, or situations that have posed themselves as my enemies or out to get me. I keep my eyes watching God while my enemies are watching me, because I believe that God, and I know that God is watching them. Yeah. If I were in church, I'd say you didn't catch that, but I'll say it again. Keep your eyes on God, and not watching those who are your enemies or situations that are difficult. Watch God, because God is watching them while they're watching you. And you don't have to worry about being distracted about their plans or what they're up to or what those situations may be, whether it be in your home or whether it be on the job or whether it be in your community or whether it be in the nation. Keep your eyes on the one who takes care of you every day. And you'll discover, like my big brother on the other side of those who are the bullies, that God is watching them while they're watching me. Yeah. I hope that you have a great week, and I'm hoping that you'll be encouraged to know that it's not what it looks like. Sometimes it does look bad, and sometimes it really is bad, but those things are temporary. It won't last forever. If I were in church a long time ago, they would say, I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. It doesn't. And soon and very soon, you'll see changes after a while. And some of us have lived long enough, have gray hair in places or no hair at all. And I've been reminded that life goes on. Even when it seems like it's at its worst, there are always better days coming and better moments in life. Keep on living. It's worth it. And do the best you can to love and laugh and live the most you can in every day, so you can leave a legacy of faith and belief and strength. To those of you who are workers and caregivers, we always say to you, thank you so much for all that you do. You are loved, you are appreciated, and you are irreplaceable. Thank you so much for all that you do. Keep doing it for the kingdom's sake, and for your sake, and for life's sake, and for love's sake, and for your family's sake, and for our community's sake. Thank you for being who you are. Have a great day. Have a great week. We are praying God's blessings upon you as you continue to journey on.